I thought catching my wife cheating was the worst moment of my life, until months later she hunted me and my new girlfriend down in a parking lot and tried to run us over. What started as a broken marriage spiraled into stalking, violence, and a fight for our lives. Here's how everything unraveled. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who would sit down and pour my entire life onto the internet, but after everything that has happened, after the chaos, the heartbreak, the rage, the fear, and the insane chain of events that nearly cost me my life, I guess I owe it to myself to finally tell this story. Maybe it'll help someone avoid the same kind of disaster. Maybe it'll finally get this weight off my chest. Or maybe I'm just trying to make sense of how the woman I loved for years turned into someone unrecognizable. My name's Ryan. I'm 36 now. And for most of my adult life, I truly believed I had married the love of my life, a woman named Melissa, who was 35 when all of this began to unravel. When we first met, I thought I had hit the damn jackpot. She was beautiful, funny, charming in this subtle, magnetic way, and she had this softness that I mistook for emotional maturity. Given the way I grew up, you have to understand, I was always vigilant, always scanning for danger, always watching for the warning signs of the kind of toxic chaos I'd seen as a kid. My parents were a walking disaster, screaming at each other at 3 a.m., broken plates on the floor, slammed doors, neighbors calling the police because my mother couldn't control her temper. My father was a gentle guy, too gentle maybe. He stayed because he loved us. Stayed even when it destroyed him. So by the time I became an adult, I promised myself I would never relive that world again. And I especially wouldn't let myself marry someone like my mother. So when I met Melissa, I took things slow, very slow. I paid attention to everything. How she treated people, how she handled stress, how she talked about money, how she acted when she didn't get her way. I watched her carefully for almost 2 years before proposing, and honestly, she passed every test, every single one. She was thoughtful, patient, sweet, everything I thought stability looked like. I remember bragging to my best friend one night, telling him I had finally broken the family cycle, that I had finally found someone healthy and kind. I told him that the chaos ended with me, that my childhood wouldn't repeat itself. God, if I had known how wrong I was. We got married in this gorgeous outdoor ceremony. String lights, soft music, the whole fairy tale vibe she'd always dreamed of. We bought a cute little house in the suburbs, talked about getting a dog, talked about maybe having a kid one day. For a while, everything felt right. For a while, I thought I had finally built the life I deserved. And then, slowly, everything started falling apart. It wasn't dramatic at first, it was small things. Arguments about chores, tension over my work hours, her snapping at me because I got the wrong coffee creamer. But those small moments grew into big ones, ugly ones, loud ones. We started having these explosive fights every month like clockwork, not about anything meaningful, not anything that justified the level of rage she showed. I'd get yelled at for being late, for forgetting to thaw chicken for dinner, for leaving a hoodie on the couch, for breathing wrong. The worst part? I was still in love with her, even when she made me feel like garbage, even when our house felt more like a battlefield than a home. Because once upon a time she used to leave cute notes in my lunchbox. She used to surprise me with little weekend trips. She used to climb into my arms like I was the safest place in the world. And I kept telling myself that woman is still in there somewhere. But she wasn't. Eventually, she agreed to couples therapy, something I begged for, and after exactly one session, she stormed out crying, insisting the therapist was attacking her. She accused me of trying to make her look unstable. She said I was setting her up. She called the therapist a fraud. She refused to go back. That was the day it hit me that something was deeply, fundamentally broken inside her, something I couldn't fix. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known it, was that the worst was coming. We drifted into a strange, cold routine. We barely spoke. We barely touched. We slept in the same bed, but felt miles apart. I convinced myself it was a phase, that marriage had ups and downs, and that we could get through it if I just kept trying. But marriage vows don't mean anything when the other person stops honoring them. The day everything collapsed started off so normal, it felt like a punch to the throat afterward. I'd been sent to a 4-day work expo in another state. Nothing glamorous, just networking and presentations. On day 3, our company had a server meltdown, so everyone got called home early. And like an absolute idiot, I thought it would be sweet to surprise my wife by coming home unannounced. I should have asked myself why I felt the need to surprise her at all. During the Uber ride from the airport, I planned out this little romantic gesture. Picked up her favorite orchids on the way home, grabbed champagne, chocolates, the whole cheesy package. I walked into our house like a man starring in his own little rom-com fantasy, completely unaware that my marriage was already dead. I remember her car being in the driveway. I remember hearing music upstairs. I remember seeing 2 wine glasses in the sink and assuming she had a friend over. God, I wish it had been a friend. I walked up the stairs with the stupid orchids in my hands. And the closer I got to the bedroom, the clearer the sounds became. Not music, not talking. Something else, something unmistakable. But my brain, my stupid, naive brain, refused to process it. I opened the bedroom door, and that one single moment, that 1 second, rewired the entire universe. There she was, my wife Melissa, naked under some guy I'd never seen in my life, in our bed, our sheets, the place where we planned a future, the place where she cried over her father's death, the place where she told me she loved me more than anything. And she didn't even look surprised. Not embarrassed, not guilty, not devastated, just annoyed. The guy tried to run past me like I was a piece of furniture. I snapped, not violently, not dangerously, but enough to grab him and shove him against the wall. I didn't punch him, I didn't choke him, I just held him there long enough for him to realize he wasn't walking out of my house like nothing happened. He scrambled away eventually, pants half on, shirt inside out, bolting like a roach under a bright light. And Melissa? She didn't apologize, she didn't cry, she didn't even cover herself. She just rolled her eyes and asked, "Why are you home?" Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I can explain." Not, "Please don't leave me." Just irritation, like I'd interrupted her spa day. I felt something in my chest snap, not my heart, that had already been fracturing for months. Something deeper, something older. Something that remembered the chaos of my childhood and realized I'd walked right back into hell. She blamed me. She screamed that I wasn't supposed to come home. She said I had ruined everything. She said I should have told her I was flying back early. I stood there staring at the woman I married, wondering how she had turned into a stranger wearing my wife's face. And then she said something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. "You refused the open relationship. I had needs." As if cheating was a reasonable follow-up to a conversation drunk Melissa had 6 months earlier. That was the day I realized she had been gone long before I opened that bedroom door. The Melissa I loved had already left our marriage. The one standing in front of me was someone else entirely. Someone capable of cruelty I couldn't comprehend. Someone who would, months later, prove she was capable of something far, far worse. I walked out of that bedroom like a ghost. Like my soul had gotten trapped in that room with Melissa and that stranger while my body just kept moving forward. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't even slam the door. I just left. Because if I stayed, I wasn't sure what I might do. Not to her, but to myself. My brain felt scrambled, like a radio picking up static from 10 different stations. My chest felt hollow and electrified at the same time. Every breath hurt. She followed me down the hallway screaming insults, calling me spineless, calling me dramatic, telling me I was acting like a child. She twisted the story so fast it made my head spin. According to her, I had snuck back home. I had violated her privacy. I had set her up, and she had no choice but to find affection somewhere else. She even tried to flip it into fear, yelling, "I knew you had anger issues. See, this is why I did it. You scare me." What she was really trying to do was bait me, push me until I snapped, until I hit her, until she could say she was the victim. But I didn't touch her. I didn't even look at her. I walked straight out the door. I sat in my car for a full 5 minutes, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't understand how the woman I'd married had become this person. The betrayal was so sharp it felt physical, like something was tearing in my chest. Eventually, I forced myself to turn the ignition and drive. I ended up at my best friend Jason's place without planning to go there. He opened the door, took one look at me, and said nothing. Just handed me whiskey and sat with me while I told him everything. Jason didn't sugarcoat it. He told me to lawyer up immediately. He warned me that the court system doesn't care who cheated, that my income might still mean alimony. He told me to collect evidence, screenshots, photos, anything to protect myself. And he was right. Because that night, Melissa unleashed hell through text. She blew up my phone with message after message, insults, attacks, sexual comparisons, graphic descriptions of the guy she'd slept with, as if she wanted to stab me with every word. She said he was bigger, better, stronger. She said she had never been satisfied with me. She said she had been pretending for years. It was like she wanted to destroy my dignity piece by piece. But then, within minutes, she started deleting them, one by one, vanishing right before my eyes, like she suddenly remembered that divorces involve lawyers, money, screenshots, judges. Too bad for her. Jason had told me to save everything, and I did. I captured every message, every admission, every insult, every disgusting line she tried to take back. I screenshotted until my storage was almost full, and when she realized I wasn't responding, she switched tactics again. Now she was the victim. Now she claimed I had abandoned her. Now she wanted to talk. Now she was confused and hurting. I didn't fall for it. The next 2 weeks were a blur of attorney consultations. Some wanted astronomical fees, some seemed incompetent. But then I met Daniel, a calm, sharp divorce lawyer who actually listened. When I showed him the evidence, the screenshots, the timestamps, the photos of the bedroom, he nodded slowly and said, "We can work with this." And for the first time since walking into my house with those stupid orchids, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Serving Melissa with divorce papers was almost comical. She dodged the process server for weeks, changed her routine, hid in her mother's house, pretended not to be home. She even had her mom lie and claim she'd moved to Arizona. But karma has a sense of humor, because the server finally caught her as she was leaving a yoga class. Hair perfect, expensive mat in hand, and she nearly dropped her latte when she realized she'd been caught. Then came the real war. Melissa dragged out every step of the divorce like it was her life's mission. She forgot paperwork. She lost financial statements. She argued over every fork, every pillow, every piece of furniture. She demanded half my retirement. She demanded the house. She demanded alimony from the man she cheated on. The entitlement was unbelievable. She'd waltz into negotiations with her lawyer, the same woman who once texted me size comparisons, acting like she was the injured party, like she deserved to be rewarded for breaking our marriage. But while she was busy trying to bleed me dry, I was trying to move forward. I wasn't ready to date seriously, but I needed distractions. I fell into a pointless cycle of Tinder hookups, each one leaving me feeling emptier than before. It wasn't who I was. It wasn't what I wanted. Every morning after felt like a reminder of everything Melissa had ruined. One Saturday, instead of scrolling through dating apps, I walked into this little independent bookstore downtown, the kind with slanted wooden floors and cats sleeping on stacks of old novels. I hadn't been in a bookstore in years. My life had become all spreadsheets and stress and survival. I stood there staring at the sci-fi shelf like an idiot, completely lost, and then I heard this soft laugh next to me. Not mocking, just warm. I turned and saw her, Hannah. She was holding a massive fantasy hardback, smiling at me like she already knew what I was thinking. She asked if I needed help, and in that moment, something in my chest loosened. We ended up talking for 2 hours about books, about college favorites, about authors I'd forgotten I loved. She listened, really listened, and when she got excited about something, she tucked her hair behind her ear in this adorable way that actually made me forget I was technically still married. When I asked for her number, my hands literally shook. I left that bookstore feeling lighter than I had in months. Our first date was perfect in a quiet, gentle way. I told her about the divorce right away, expecting her to bail, but she didn't. She thanked me for being honest. She made a joke about being glad I wasn't secretly married behind her back. She handled it with maturity I didn't know I needed. She was everything Melissa wasn't. Patient, curious, engaged. She remembered things I said. She sent me book recommendations. She left cute notes in the novels she lent me. She never pressured me about the divorce. She supported me through the weeks of Melissa's legal nonsense. For the first time in years, I felt safe, I felt chosen, I felt happy, which is exactly the moment when my life turned into a nightmare again. Hannah and I had just finished a beautiful Saturday together. Lunch, window shopping, joking around, just enjoying each other. We were walking through the mall parking lot at sunset, talking about what movie to watch. Then I heard it. An engine revving, hard, aggressive. I turned just in time to see a car barreling toward us, accelerating way too fast. It wasn't swerving, it wasn't braking, it was coming directly at us. But not at me, at Hannah. I yanked her toward me, but I wasn't fast enough. The car clipped her leg, and the sound it made, I will never get it out of my head. A sharp, sickening crack, followed by her scream. She collapsed, and I fell with her, grabbing her, trying to shield her with my body. I thought it was over. I thought she had been hit by a reckless driver. But then the engine roared again, louder, closer. The driver was reversing to hit us again. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. I dragged Hannah between two parked cars, my heart thundering out of my chest. She sobbed in pain as her leg bent at an unnatural angle. I screamed for help. Someone yelled. Multiple phones came out. Car alarms blared. The rogue car slammed into the vehicles we were hiding behind, metal crunching, glass shattering. People scattered. Someone cursed loudly. The entire parking lot turned into chaos. And then the driver's door opened, and my stomach turned into ice. Because stepping out of that car, calm, composed, almost elegant in her blazer, was Melissa, my ex-wife, looking at us like she had just arrived for a casual brunch. Her eyes were wild, unhinged, dark. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't confused. She knew exactly what she was doing. She had followed us, stalked us, waited for the right moment. She tried to kill us, and she wasn't finished. She started walking toward us, slow and deliberate, like some twisted predator. Her heels clicked on the pavement in this horrifying rhythm that made my skin crawl. Hannah whimpered beside me, her breath shaking, her fingers clutching my arm. I honestly thought Melissa was going to try to finish the job, or kill Hannah, or kill me. Maybe all three. But then, thank God, a man built like a linebacker sprinted forward and grabbed her from behind, locking his arms around her as she thrashed and screamed. I held Hannah, whispering that she was okay, even though I had no idea if that was true. I kept my eyes on Melissa the whole time, watching her fight against the man restraining her, her face twisted in pure feral hatred. That woman was not my wife, not the woman I married, not even the woman who cheated. She was something else entirely, something dangerous, something I didn't recognize. By the time the police arrived, sirens blaring, Melissa was still screaming, still kicking, still trying to break free. When they cuffed her, she spit at one of the officers. She looked at me with this expression I will never forget, not sadness, not shame, but position. Like if she couldn't have me, no one could. They loaded Hannah into the ambulance, and even through her tears and agony, she smiled at me weakly as if to say, "I'll be okay." I climbed in beside her, holding her hand as they closed the doors. And behind us, Melissa was shoved into a police car, still screaming, still glaring, still convinced she had done nothing wrong. The ambulance ride felt both endless and lightning fast, like time couldn't decide whether to punish me or spare me. Hannah was shaking from the pain, squeezing my hand so tightly I could feel her nails digging into my skin. Her leg was a mess, twisted, swollen, clearly broken in more than one place. I kept telling her she was going to be okay, even though I felt like I was barely holding myself together. At the hospital, everything blurred. Nurses rushing her to x-rays, doctors asking me questions I could barely understand, paperwork shoved in my hands. I sat in the waiting room with my head in my hands, trying to grasp the reality of what had just happened. My ex-wife had tried to kill us, not hurt us, not lash out. She had tried to kill us, with a car, in public, with witnesses. And worst of all, she had aimed for Hannah first. The thought made something inside me twist into a tight, dark knot. When the police finally arrived to take my statement, I was still shaking. They told me Melissa had been arrested on the scene and charged with 2 counts of attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, reckless endangerment, and half a dozen traffic violations on top of it. The officer, a middle-aged guy with tired eyes, said quietly, "I've seen some nasty domestic cases, but this is extreme." All I could do was nod. Hannah ended up needing surgery. 2 fractures, tibia and fibula, and torn ligaments. The doctor told me she was lucky. Lucky. That word hit me like a punch. Lucky that my ex-wife didn't kill her. I stayed by Hannah's bedside through the whole surgery. When she finally woke up, groggy and pale, she looked at me with scared eyes and whispered, "Is she gone? Is she locked up?" I nodded and brushed her hair from her forehead. "Yeah, she's not coming near you again. I swear." She closed her eyes and let out a breath that sounded like she'd been holding it for an entire lifetime. For the next 2 days, I barely slept. Nurses came in and out. Machines beeped. Hannah's family arrived. Confused, horrified, protective. Her parents were kind to me, though I could see the fear in their eyes. Not fear of me, but fear for their daughter. They had legitimate questions. Questions no parent should have to ask. "Is your ex mentally unstable? Will she come after Hannah again? Is my daughter safe with you?" And God, it hurt to even hear them, because they had every right to be terrified. I told them everything. The cheating, the meltdown, the stalking, the texts, the court battles, the escalation. I didn't sugarcoat any of it. And instead of being angry, her dad actually put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You protected our girl. That matters." I swallowed a lump in my throat so hard it almost hurt. Meanwhile, Melissa was held without bail. The judge called her a clear danger to the victims and pointed out that she had intentionally used a vehicle as a weapon, something that carries extremely heavy penalties in our state. When I sat down with the prosecutor, he told me that Melissa might face up to 20 years if convicted, and this messed up cocktail of feelings hit me all at once. Relief, horror, sorrow, disgust, and this strange ghost-like grief for the woman I thought I married, for the life I thought I was building. But the Melissa I once loved was gone long before the headlights of that car came screaming toward us. Hannah's healing was long and painful. She needed weeks of rest, physical therapy, and emotional support. Some nights she'd wake up crying from nightmares, convinced Melissa was still coming after her. I'd hold her and whisper that she was safe, that I would never let anything happen to her again. And every time that old sickening guilt clawed at me, because she was injured not because of anything she'd done, but because of me, because she chose to love me. I apologized to her one night, really apologized. Told her that if she wanted to leave, if she wanted distance, I would understand completely. She stared at me for a long moment, then said softly, "I don't want to leave. I want to heal with you." That broke me in a different way, a good way, a human way, a way that reminded me that love could still be gentle. Months passed. The divorce, which Melissa swore she'd never let me have, was finalized without her permission, because attempted murder tends to simplify things legally. I got the house, I kept my retirement, I paid zero alimony, the judge reviewed the evidence, the texts, the stalking, the attack, and actually apologized to me from the bench. No one had to explain that Melissa was beyond reason, beyond saving, beyond anything resembling the person I thought she was. The criminal case was harder to sit through. Every time I saw her in court, she stared at me with those cold, furious eyes, as if I were the one who had betrayed her. She never apologized, not once. She never expressed remorse. She never explained why she did it. At sentencing, the judge called her actions an extreme escalation of intimate partner violence and a deliberate attempt to take 2 lives out of jealousy. She was given 18 years with no possibility of early release for the first 12. When the bailiff led her away, she didn't scream, she didn't cry, she didn't look at anyone except me. And she smiled. A cold, sharp smile that said, "I'll hate you until the day I die." I felt nothing back. Just emptiness. After that, life moved forward. Slowly at first, like wading through mud, but eventually the air got lighter again. The nightmares faded. My chest stopped tightening every time I heard a car accelerate behind me. Hannah healed. She worked hard through physical therapy, determined to walk without a limp. And when she finally took her first steady steps without the brace, she cried. And I cried with her. We grew stronger together, closer. She became the calm after my storm, the quiet after the chaos, the light after years spent stumbling through darkness. She made me laugh again. She made me believe in softness again. She made me believe that maybe I didn't ruin everything I touched. A year after the attack, we revisited that same bookstore, the one where we met, and I watched her gently run her fingers over the spine of a newly released sci-fi novel. She smiled at me with that look that first made my heart flutter. And I realized something. Despite everything Melissa tried to destroy, despite the betrayal, the violence, the trauma, somehow I had come out with something stronger than anything she could take away. I had love again. Real love. Healthy love. A love built on peace rather than chaos. A love that didn't need to be earned or chased or begged for. A love that didn't hurt. Hannah closed her book and slipped her hand into mine. "Ready to head home?" she asked softly. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, the word home felt real. "Yeah," I said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "Let's go home," because I finally had one again. And this time, with someone who truly wanted to share it with me.